Hi everyone. Today we're going to go over the exploded alligator skull, so we can see a few more bones in this one than we would be able to in a typical articulated alligator skull. So let's start off on the anterior end with the premaxilla. So that is right here. It forms the margin of the external nares along with the nasal. And if we go laterally from that, we have the maxilla, this very large bone that holds the majority of the teeth in the cranium of the alligator. Now we're going to move around the orbit, starting off with the lacrimal, followed by the prefrontal, the frontal, postorbital, and the jugal forms the other part of the ventral border of the orbit. Now, if we go more posteriorly on the skull roof of the alligator, we have the parietal, squamosal, quadrate, and the quadratojugal, which lies between the jugal and the quadrate. Alright, now there's a couple bones on here that you might not see in a lot of the alligator skulls we have in lab. So let's take a look at one in the orbit. So this is the palpebral bone. It is within the eyelid of the alligators. They're often lost during the preservation process, but some of them have them. This one just happens to, so I thought we'd show you that. And then down here, just deep to, or ventral to, the nasal, you have this very small vomer, and there's two of them. There's one that's hidden under this nasal, but we can see this one very clearly from here. Alright, now let's take a look at the palate of the alligator. So we're going to kind of come down and around here because there's not a good way to get an angle on this. But the first one we want to see is this fairly large wing-like structure. So this is the pterygoid. And then under here, it's again sort of hard to see, is the ectopterygoid. And down here is the palatine. Okay, and we can see those a bit more clearly on the other gator video with the articulated skull. Now, let's take a look at the occipital region, where we're going to see some bones that you don't need to know for your exam, but are interesting nonetheless. So starting off with this bone. This is the laterosphenoid. The bone just posterior to that is the prootic. And to finish off with the sphenoids, we've got the basisphenoid down here. And then the occipital complex is made up of the supraoccipital, a pair of X-occipitals, and the basioccipital that forms the occipital condyle in the majority of reptiles. Now moving on to the mandible. This, what bears the teeth in the mandible, is the dentary. This bone that forms the angle is the angular. Above the angular you have the surangular. And the bone that forms the articulation point with the cranium, the quadrate of the cranium, is the articular. Now there are two bones on the medial side, or the lingual side of the jaw, that we can't see very well on this exploded skull. So those are the splenial. It's this very thin wedge-shaped bone on the lingual surface of the jaw, and the coronoid, which is very diminutive in crocodilians, but more expanded in other sorts of reptiles. So there you go. That is the exploded alligator skull. I hope this was a bit of a unique look at an alligator skull. Take care, everyone. Hope to see you soon.